A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to The Agenda. It's a brand new show here at Namibian Sun where we dissect news as it occurred in the week. I am the host, Toiwan Jabela, and today I'm very excited to actually introduce the men that are making history with me on the debut of this show tonight. Joseph Kauandenge is a member of Nudo in the National Assembly. Welcome to the show, sir. You are also the Secretary General of Nudo. Yes. Just to put in context for the viewers. And of course, the resident commentator, Kazenambo is a former Minister of Youth. He's a SWAPO member. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us on our very first ever broadcast of The Agenda.
Thank you for making history and thank you for having me here.
Sure. So we have a number of topics some ground to cover tonight on the show, and I'm starting with Mr. Kauandenge regarding the events that occurred in Parliament in recent days since SONA, the State of the Nation address by President Hage Geingob. You were in the chambers on the day of the SONA, and you know, it was a civilized session until at some stage when we saw people being forcefully removed out of the chambers and whatnot, the members of the Landless People's Movement, to be specific. In that moment, what was going through your mind just seeing the scenes as we saw them?
Well, for starters, yes, it is true that I was in the chamber. But what came to my mind when this commotion started was the fact that are we turning now into a banana republic, or what the hell is going on here? Yeah. That is what was really going through my mind at that point in time, because I could not comprehend that in an independent Namibia, 30 years down the road of our independence, that we could actually come to that lowest point in our legislature.
Did you think, as someone who was present in the chambers yourself, did you think that the actions of Honorables Henny Sebeb and Mr. Swartboy of LPM were maybe the last resort, like, you know, doing everything by all means necessary after perhaps pleading through the established decorum of the House, and therefore they reached the boiling point? Or do you think it was just another act of hooliganism, if you like?
No, I wouldn't categorize it as hooliganism, because, listen, when I stood up even in Parliament, I made it very clear that Article 32 of our Constitution, it's very clear as to when the President should come to the National Assembly, and once he deliver his State of the Nation address, he must be available for questions. So I thought that there was this thing on the part of the President that he's doing the legislature or the MPs a favor to being there. The way the President was answering questions also gave rise to people getting agitated, actually, because he did not answer questions not correctly, but straightforward as one would want him to answer. It's like he was giving the MPs maybe, or doing them a favor, but it's a constitutional obligation that he must be there and he must be able or be available for questions. And I think this also led to the members of the LPM to say, okay, if that is the way that you are going to answer us, then we are going to also make some noise here, because definitely all of us, not only the LPM members, were not happy with the way the President was answering questions that are very important for the nation outside there.
Now, Mr. Kazenambo, you must have followed. You are a businessman, and I know that on SONA you put your fishing quarters and farming and property businesses on the side to follow this important event, having been a member of Parliament yourself in the past. Who was the hooligan in this case? Is it the MPs who behaved in the manner that they did, or the Speaker who went to chuck them out of Parliament, and there's a pending court case now whether they'll be allowed back in court or in Parliament or not?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Yes, I put everything aside that fateful day. And I followed SONA right from the beginning, before the president arrived, until the president arrived, and I followed everything until to the end. I followed the comments of the public through the social media, when a colleague from the security political fraternity who are following these things asked me my take on what I've just developed in that fateful day. Very, very sad indeed in the political architecture of our country. My summing up of it was that it looked like a battle of barbarians. It looked like a typical battle of barbarians. No sophistication. You don't know who to blame. You don't know who to accuse. And you don't know how to arrive at accusing who. Because the whole manifestation, the body language, the seriousness, the decorum of the House, from the ululating like a bar when the president was entering the place. You don't know who was competing who and what mood was being built, to the whole development of the whole thing, and the way the president was answering, and whether he was a man who was thrown to swim from the end of the river lonely. He was not having a support system. Whether it was a one-man show, you didn't know what is what, because even if you can play that tape, you know, like Honorable Kauandenge is saying, it started in a civil manner, but if you are a close observant, you saw systematically the mood changing. It was degenerating minute by minute, second by second, because the dialogue, you could see now the dialogue between the president and the LPM, the LPM corps or LPM group. You could see there, and the speaker was trying to intervene with order, no dialogue, and the way the president was responding, it was also degenerating into a village type. You can follow it. He was a person who was pleading. You can see, you can play the tape. It was becoming the I. And there was no support system from anywhere. The SWAPO group was so senile. They were like just a student in a classroom.
But let me ask you that. Let me ask you this: did you see this thing coming? Given the fact that since LPM came to Parliament, we've seen similar scenes in the past, but maybe not just as extreme as the ones that we saw at SONA, but we've seen jackets being ripped off by people throwing them on a desk and inviting people to fist fights. You can only do that for so long. At some stage, people will stand up and say, but okay, now fight me now.
But definitely the president is not part of those who have been sizing up to each other in Parliament. And that's why I'm saying that the decorum of the House should, when there is a man, a head of state, who is there to deliver SONA, he's not a member of Parliament. He's just come to Parliament by invitation.
Yes.
The decorum of the House must reflect, the mood must be built for that occasion. And I'm saying the mood that was prevail in the House was like of a bar. From the time the president was arriving,
Yes.
the adulation, the everything, it was so childish immaturity.
But that is what
It was building a mood.
But that is what you guys did. In Parliament, you always clapped hands and...
No. Let us give let us give the seriousness
Yes.
of this discussion
Yes.
the manner it deserves, and let us analyze things objectively.
Yes.
And the reason I said that, for me, it was a battle of the barbarians, barbarians from all sides, because the mood, the behavior, the environment from both sides,
Yes.
SWAPO, LPM, whoever, it was not a mood for the occasion.
Yeah.
It was lowered right from the beginning, and that lowering, it went throughout the event. And you know, these things have got serious consequences for our country, beyond what me and you, the three of us, are sitting here. And Honorable Kauandenge have said that that day reduced our country to a banana republic. Who would love to live in a banana republic?
Yes.
These things happening
Yeah.
have got serious consequences
Yes.
from our economic growth environment. From it cuts across our political, social, and economic environment. The events like the one that took place. So it's not a question where you reduce it to LPM and SWAPO and individual and the president and hand clappers. We need to give the seriousness of this analysis.
Yes.
How it deserve, because the whole situation that transpired there, the world is watching us. We don't live in an isolation.
Yes.
There are people who are investing billions in this country, millions in this country, and it affects what is happening in Parliament or our political interactions. They affect people, ordinary people in the street, because what has happened now, firstly, Namibia from 1990. Even if you can check in the internet now, as we are talking now, from 2014 to 2019 to last year, the global political risk indices or indicators, we are a country that has been downgraded. We have been downgraded. The political indicators at a global level.
I hear you.
Our political risk,
Yeah.
is increasing. Okay. We are becoming a political risky country. Therefore, what happened at Sona, it is not helping us. It is adding to us being perceived by investors, by other political serious players, that we are a country on a political decline.
I'll stop you there, Mr. Kazenambo, for a minute. The last question on this subject goes to you, Mr. Kauandenge, and that is, that particular incident in your analysis, is it an isolated flash in the pan kind of incident, or is this a beginning of a generation that will stand up to SWAPO leaders in Parliament? I mean, you are in the current Parliament for the first time, but your predecessors in that space of the opposition, they've been bullied. They've been told to shut up. They've been told to never speak to the Speaker or certain government leaders in a particular manner. Do you think this is a generation that says now, we are no longer going to listen to that kind of instructions, and if you don't listen to us, this is how we are going to do things?
Yeah, no, definitely, but I would love to disagree a little bit with Honorable Kazenambo, the way he alluded to the fact that when the Parliament started on that day, both sides from the opposition and the ruling party were somehow, in that mood of misbehaving, and the word he used.
No, I didn't say that.
But I must put it on record that the opposition benches, when the president walked in, we all stood up. We gave him the respect that he deserved. The side of the SWAPO party, they were going on with their ululations and what have you, and they set the stage actually for saying we are in control. That is how I interpreted it when the president walked in.
Yes.
However, Namibians must also take into account and ask themselves, what is the purpose of a parliamentary system? Why are we in parliament? What are we supposed to be doing there? We cannot be in parliament and become nuns.
Yes.
Obviously not.
Yes.
Parliament is a place where there must be robust discussions, disagreement, factually on issues that affect the people of this country. Now, to your question, it is true that in the past, those that were there were bullied, and that is a truth. A SWAPO minister will stand up from this side of the aisle and just say, shut up, you kufuts and whatever, to the members of the opposition. It was a norm in the past. But the new generation that is in parliament are saying, no, we have had enough with your liberation struggle. Yes, we pay attention and homage to those that fought for the liberation struggle of this country, but we now are busy with economic emancipation that we have to fight for. Yes. So it's a whole ball game where current members of parliament will take SWAPO on, and the ruling party does not like that because they are not used to that. They are used to being comfortable in their seats and dictating their agenda and calling opposition members names and what not. But I must say, the House is generating to the extent it is because the Speaker does not have the moral or the muscle and the political muscle to call his SWAPO comrades to order when they are also out of order. Because you will see he will always go to the opposition. But when the minister stood up and say a word, he always did not hear it. I don't know whether his ears only hear this side of the opposition, but on the side of the ruling party, he does not hear. So yes, Parliament will continue to be robust.
Yes.
Parliament will continue, and members from the opposition will hold the SWAPO party accountable. If the unfortunate thing is that the SWAPO MPs that are in Parliament today are dead woods, to say the least. If you see the combination of the SWAPO MPs in Parliament today, many of them cannot compete intellectually and otherwise at par with most members of the opposition. And this is where the problem is. That's where you are told now we are disrespecting these youngsters that came in, don't have manners and whatnot. But it's the parliamentary system throughout the world. You must see the House of Commons in the UK, how they are debating. Sometimes you will wonder, are they fighting or are they debating issues? The Prime Minister is being taken to task.
Yes.
In South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, when he comes to Parliament, he's taken to task. You know, whatever. But here in Namibia, we must be nuns in the Parliament and behave as such.
Indeed. I have 3 minutes before we go on a break. So I want you to respond just quickly for that remaining moment, Mr. Kazenambo. Is your party losing to the opposition in Parliament? Are you guys trailing now?
It's very subjective for you to say my party. SWAPO is not members of Parliament. In SWAPO, those are some in that Parliament. There are great brains, intellectually, guys who are well. Ladies, men and women who are well trained academically, intellectually, astute, and so on, who can stand up to any challenge. They can challenge Honorable Kauandenge intellectually. He knows it very well. But I will agree with him that there will be some members of our party who may be having some deficiency, academic deficiency or intellectual deficiency, just like it's the same also in any other political party there. We are not in that Parliament for intellectual contestation. Yeah. We are there to address issue. And you cannot generalize SWAPO. Let us distinguish individuals from SWAPO. SWAPO and individuals. The things of bashing everything, if you are talking about corruption, is SWAPO. When you are talking about individuals that are not intellectually aptitude, it's SWAPO. No, it's really a way of manipulating facts and to try to steal the show in a very, very unprofessional way. So SWAPO is doing well, but let us not deviate from this topic, unless if I have to come to back to
Finish your point quickly.
my point is that, colleagues, what has happened in Parliament, was it last week?
Yes.
It's regrettable, and we all need to go back to the drawing tables, all
All of us.
and see how really serious do we take our parliament. And I have not blamed the opposition. I was saying that the mood which was being built, mostly by my colleagues, by alulating. I don't know who were they competing with. That was not a SWAPO meeting.
Yes.
It was not a swap. Gengobe has been already elected. He doesn't need to be allocated at parliament, because by allulating you are irritating other people. And this is your day. This is the day for your president. You're already setting up the mood. So things like this are not good, but also they are reflective in our country, the level of our political risk. And what happened, security invading parliament, and Katjavivi is just jumping hastily, dismissing parliament. These things, it tells you that either SWAPO, it's a party under siege, or parliament. We are doing what is called in strategy studies, what you are seeing, it's moral panic.
We'll leave it there for a moment. We are going for a short break. This is the agenda. This is the agenda. I am joined in the studio by Kazenambo and Joseph Kauandenge. Joseph, of course, is a current member of parliament on the ticket of Nudo. Kazenambo was a member of SWAPO in parliament also some years ago, but something happened. Joseph is a secretary general of a political party, and people talk about, let's talk about succession politics. Why is it that every time there's contestation in our internal contestation in the political parties, that somehow there's always a fallout? So bad that in your party, you actually expelled Vetaruhe Kandorozu. Is it a question of leaders not wanting to be challenged at all?
I think it has to do with the mental setup of Africans, we as Africans, in terms of how do we view politics. In a Western world, politics for them, it's not a means to an end. It's not an employment, it's a calling for service. Now, unfortunately, in an African context, politics for many of our people is a means to an end. It's a ticket to the meal. It's when I'm there, then the dinner table, it's laid out for me and only me. So unfortunately, when it is time for a succession, and many of them as leaders, we don't think about that even.
Yes.
We don't think that tomorrow or after 2 terms or 3 terms, I must vacate this office or space. We align ourselves so much with I'm there, and anybody that comes and want to challenge me must be silenced at all cost. In the past, you will see people being killed. What happened to Patrice Lumumba? And other African leaders for that matter, that they were being killed by their own kith and kind and people that were close to them. And this is the problem that we are having in the Namibian political setup.
Indeed.
Because we don't prepare for the time when we say, let me bring this young man here next to me, let me mold him the day when I'm not there, that this person should take over. That is a problem we are having.
Now, Mr. Kazenambo, you are on the fringes of your own party. You are not a Central Committee member anymore. Of course, you don't have a birthright to remain a Central Committee member for the rest of your life. But It's also, your fate had a lot to do with internal contestation in the party also. Why is it difficult? Why is it not allowed somehow that to differ with the leadership of the party in terms of the choices of candidates that you want?
This whole thing has got to do with our political architecture, the way we do politics in Africa, and I have to agree with what Kauandenge, the Honorable Kauandenge has said. Maybe we'll agree a lot today. I don't know. But these are serious. Again, also when we are discussing these things, let us elevate them to the impact, the consequences, what they are causing. Because all they are adding up to political instability. And political instability is not good for any country. The politics of the belly, which is a mere consideration for many people. When people they are participating, even the battle in parliament now, it is not about policy. You can see that it has got nothing to do with policy. It has got something to do with political survival. That's why people have got nothing to do with rules and policy. They want to be seen to trample the laws and the rules and the policy. The very same attitude and mindset is the one that causes problems. Because people are divided in the camp always, and it's not a camp that I'm going to serve, I'm going to stand for this policy. Is the competition to push one another to be the next, whether at all cost, through who can crook, be it through corruption, bribing votes, or through bullying, through intimidation, and so on. And this thing creates tension, and there is no peace. There is no peace, and there is no consistency. That no, yesterday we did it this way, tomorrow we must do it this way, and we must stick to the way we did. Like for an example, you see what is happening in parliament. It's exactly what has happened into my party. What has happened internally into my party now is spilling over to the national politics. And it's a cut, and also at the national, because the way you see the succession tension in SWAPO, you will see it in DTA, in PDM, sorry, you will see it in Nudo, you will see it, even soon you will see it in LPM. IPC is already there. So it's a culture that the consideration is not to go and serve, because politics, it's an employment agency now for many people. So it's competition. So now, because for example, in my party, as we are talking now, you know, last year, 2017, they were talking about the very same gang of group. We're talking about the slate politics. Now, it's another slate that they are contemplating. Those who were together.
Nudo had a slate?
Nudo had got a slate, Many of these political parties, it's a slate, it's not even a slate for either sustaining party policy or ideology. It's a slate, give me those that I want to eat with at the moment. Now you see, when SWAPO was weakened last time, because definitely it has brought division, and because the consideration is eating.
Yes.
People, they don't know, even, they don't realize that, my friend, we are fighting to protect this plate, but this plate is empty. They still gather around that plate. Even some are coming to that plate. Because now, even in SWAPO, they are no longer sustaining their slate of last Congress. They are now divided with many slates. So comes next year, Gengob will introduce another slate. Yeah. That's the confusion that you are having. And the very people who are, it's they are just like wolves. Today, you know, the wolves survived that specific kill. And whether they will end up eating one another, they don't have any culture. So the thing is that let us be decent in this thing. Yeah. Let us protect our party. Let us not concentrate on the plate.
Yes.
whether the plate is what. Let us be influenced by ideological consideration,
Yes.
by policy, by issues, not who is going to be in the power. Because I'm telling you, currently what is going into SWAPO internally, those who were together at the last slate, they are no longer together. They are killing one another. Even you can go to Nudo.
I stop it there.
Those who were together at the last slate, they are no longer together. Some are locking offices. The same with PDM. Those who were together, they are now in the court taking one together. So you tell you, this can prove that the consideration here is not about policy. It's about eating.
But
and at this eating, they can assassinate one another. And that's what I can assure you. What we saw there in Parliament last week, these are symptoms of instability. What will follow?
Yeah.
It's physical elimination. In this country, people will start being associated. Poisoned, killed, mark my words.
Yeah.
Because that's the only option that is left for the survival, for the battle of the plate.
I hear you. So, what plate were you targeting when you guys had a slate of your own in Nudo? You ran alongside Esther Mwinyangwe. Of course, you won. And immediately after you guys won, like I stated earlier, Vetaruhega Kandrodu, who ran against Esther Mwinyangwe, was hounded out of the party. And there was even an attempt to remove your members of parliament that were there before Congress. What damage or how can I put it? My English is gone. What damage or the opposite of that has succession politics do to your party since that Congress?
Well, it did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage that we are still reeling from as we speak now. And unfortunately, I don't know why sometimes the smaller political party, and when I say smaller political parties, I'm not mentioning to say in terms of the name, because Nudo was started in 1964, in terms of size. Why do we copy often what is happening in the bigger parties? Parties like Nudo and all these smaller parties has no place for slate politics. Because the moment how few you are, the moment when you are divided, it has dire consequences for the party. But for pickup parties like SWAPO or others, perhaps they can manage it in terms of what they can give this one or that one in terms of resources that they are having. So for us, it was a learning curve, really, that going forward, we must try by all means to avoid slate politics at all cost. So that at least we can rally, but it will be difficult, of course, because at the end of the day, as we have said, everybody wants to come on the dinner table and eat. And if I'm not eating, then I will turn the table around so that nobody can eat, you know, and that is precisely the mental state of many of our people, not only in Nudo, but across the spectrum of politics. And for us, the question that you asked, it really was a learning curve that perhaps in 2024, we must try by all means as leaders to make sure that we don't go back there, because it still today, those slates, once you have slates in the party, they don't die. They just reinvent themselves into more slates. Those that were together today, tomorrow they are no more together, and those that went there, they will start another slate. And then it continues, So it is really something that to be avoided at all cost.
Now, while I have you, while I'm still talking to you, how safe is the position of Esther Mwinyangwe? Because we are seeing petitions being written. Some seem to be disillusioned about the fact that she has accepted an appointment of a minister, as deputy minister by the SWAPO president. And some see it as simply a case of people not wanting to be led by a woman. How safe is she in that position?
Well, for starters, those that are really against the position within Nudo and the broader Namibian society, I must call them hypocrites, to say the least. Because it is the very same society of Namibians that have been calling for SWAPO and telling SWAPO that SWAPO party is selfish. That if the president have to appoint any minister, the Constitution is very clear that he must choose from the members of the National Assembly with with the exemption of the 6 or whatever that he's nominating. Now, the Namibian society was all along saying SWAPO is selfish, the president is selfish, that they cannot take from the brain from the opposition, because we have people that are capable in a position that can actually contribute to the well-being of Namibia. Yeah. Now, when the president does that, some of us then again stand up and say, no, why must he do that, or why did he do that? Because that woman is not a member of the SWAPO party, and. But the question is, why were we calling for that to happen? Yeah. Now, some of the people that were at the forefront of attacking my president were the people that, when Parliament resumed, last year in March, they put in another name for the position of the Speaker in Parliament. That name came from the opposition. Why? Because the argument was that SWAPO cannot have a Speaker from the SWAPO party and a Deputy Speaker from the SWAPO party. We must share. Now, is it only sharing when it is other parties, but it's not sharing when it comes to Nudo? You know, so for me, it really does not make any sense. But yes, the question that she is a woman, and the party is male-dominated, it also has its own challenges as well. Because yes, she managed to be elected into that position, but I don't think as many men in the party we have really accepted that a woman can lead. Yes. And that is also a challenge, but also there are third forces outside Nudo that wants to make sure that she loses that position at all costs, because of their own vested interest as well. And the third forces, we know what third forces they are, for obvious reasons, that she cannot be there. But the third forces is because some people were hunting to become prime ministers and ministers in the government, and they did not get that opportunity. And because of this male chauvinism of saying a woman cannot be there and I'm here outside, it's also playing a role. But one thing that I can currently use, she's safe. Because those of us that believe in women empowerment will fight with her till the last breath so that she can remain there and finish her term. And whoever wants to come and take Nudo in 2024 must do his or her homework and come to Congress. We cannot have a coup d'etat in the middle of her term just because she accepted the position as deputy minister in the government. But because at the end of the day, she's serving the whole Namibia. She's not been paid with SWAPO money. She's paid with Namibian taxpayer money. And every teacher, every police officer that belongs to Nudo today, they are in the same government working. Are they also bought by SWAPO?
That's a fair question. Chief, what was your take on the appointment of Esther Munyangwe, especially coming from a party that has so much entitlement? People thinking that, no, we were campaigning there, but we are being overlooked. We were in this camp, but we were overlooked. When you heard that Esther Munyangwe was going to be made a deputy minister, what was your take?
I welcomed it, and I deeply congratulate the president and both President and Munyangwe, President for appointing Munyangwe from Nudo, and Munyangwe accepting this responsibility, because let's move away from the politics of the belly and opportunism here, of seeing things selectively. When things are in our interest, they are okay. When they are done in the interest of the wider society, but at an individual level we are not beneficiary, then we throw dust on the whole thing. So this, I think, for nation building, this was, you welcome it. Yeah. And by the way, it is not for the first time that is happening in the history of this country. Yes. For an example, when we at independence, people like Dirkhat, is it Dirkhat, yeah? When he was appointed Deputy Minister of Youth, he was on the ticket of UDF, if I recollect very well. By the same time, when Advocate Vekwi Rukoro was appointed Deputy Minister of Justice, he was sworn of president. and
Kodongwidi.
late Kodongwidi, may his soul rest in peace, when he was appointed ombudsman, first ombudsman of the Republic of Namibia, he was member of DTA. So the list goes on and on and on. So this scenario is not the first one to happen. So it's a legacy that continues.
What has it done to national cohesion? Do you want us to return back to that kind of politics where we look beyond political loyalty and really put people, because the 1990 thing was quite nice to have all those, that variation.
It is something that...
Or will it destroy ruling parties if they start taking people from other sides? Briefly.
It can be said it will destroy both the opposition, like the argument that is being advanced now by even some of those who benefited from this scenario. So it will not, it's a good way of nation building. It doesn't destroy anything. It is adding up, it is strengthening. You know, division is a sign of weakness. Like the saying says that divided we fall, united we stand. Anything that is dividing, whether it's, that's why we had the problem with slate politics, because it's a recipe for division and it's not sustainable. Anything that is united, we may have differences, and we have got our ideological differences, our cultural diversity and so on, but the intention, the main goal is to build a one Namibia, one nation. So if people are coming from different political background, and they are not expected to become SWAPO members.
Yes.
No, they are expected. In fact, if there is somebody who is critical in this country politically, I consider myself more critical, sometimes unreasonable, than members of the opposition. So I can be considered an opposition within, but does this help my party or does it minus from my party?
Yes.
But if you have got yes people, yes men, you get what it also in your house. Sometimes you need to have people that are telling you that you are wrong. Yes. You are going in the wrong direction. So I'm not afraid of the opposition being part of the government.
Yes.
They may remain who they are and they are who they are, but we all belong to this country. We must contribute to it. I see it in that light.
I stop you there for a minute, yes. Mr. Kazenambo. We are going for a quick break, and when we return, we will talk about the cabinet reshuffle that took place the past week. Welcome back. Yeah, so we continue with the agenda, and the next item really now is in the final part of the show is to talk about the cabinet reshuffle. Let's talk about. Give me your view, Joseph, about what is your overall take, especially the all-important appointment of Frans Kapofi as Defense Minister.
Well, for my side, it was a total disappointment. Really, I must say the president of this country has run off ideas. Seriously, President Hage Geingob appointments of late is a total disaster as far as I'm concerned. Because on one hand, he's trying his level best to keep those people that are close to him still in their positions and reshuffle them from one end to the next. However, Frans Kapofi was in how many portfolio, if one can count? As a minister, what really did he do that set him apart today to become a defense minister? The same with the whole appointments. It's a thing of recycling the old, is it old wine in new bottles, and it does not really add any value to the whole issue of administration, to the whole issue of accountability and what have you and what have you not. Remember that when President Hage Geingob took over, he went to the extent of saying that these ministers must sign performance, whatever that he was saying, they must bring in their CVs and whatnot. Everything that the president does or say lacks implementation at the end of the day. So for me, these appointments is a total disaster. The president brought in a young person of the 22 years old, but then you ask yourself, what will this person do when she is in parliament? Those that were appointed as young people that are in parliament today on the ticket of SWAPO as backbenchers, what are they doing? What are they contributing? So it's more of a fashion show, a fashion statement for her, because I don't think she will be able to contribute anything in the setup of the SWAPO party currently as they are in parliament.
She's a very strong youth leader.
Well,
Manso and other places.
So did we thought about Emma Theophiles as a deputy minister?
What is wrong with Emma?
What does he do now? What substantive or concrete proposals or articulations of ideas does she bring in parliament? Unfortunately, and I must say this, SWAPO is killing youth and young people brains in that parliament, because they are taking young people from the streets and bring them into parliament, but then when they are in parliament, then they must do the line. There is a hierarchy of what can you say and what can you not say and when can you not say it. The ministers must be the one to say this and what not. This we are saying that these young people are brought in there, but they cannot be themselves. They cannot really speak out their mind as backbenchers in that parliament. So it's a mockery of fashion statements outside there without any concrete or substance when these people are in parliament. So for me, this appointment really, it's a total disaster as far as I'm concerned. You have Derek Claassen from Ministry of what?
Fisheries.
Now the Minister of Fisheries, yes. He's on record to have said he resigned from what company that he was having interest in the fishing sector. You have Kawana. I mean, for God's sake, why are there no Namibians with fresh ideas who can really contribute, young for that matter, who can really contribute meaningfully to the development of this country? You have the Minister of Youth and Sport. I mean, for God's sake, 76 or 70, not that I have anything against her, but in that portfolio, you need a young person that can relate to other young people and bring some more energy to that. So, I don't know. For me, it was just a disappointment.
You're not impressed?
No, I'm not impressed.
What was your impression, Mr. Kazenambo? And when you were a senior minister in Parliament, did you enjoy some sort of preference over your younger party members in terms of, because Joseph is making a very serious allegation that somehow young people, they are controlled. They will be vibrant before they enter Parliament, but once they enter the House, the likes of yourselves, who are ministers and other Central Committee members, for example, will be given preference to speak and make everybody else, whip everyone else in line.
Let me first of all remind the public outside there, your viewers, that I'm very, very conflicted when it comes to this issue of handling, because SWAPO is a divided party at the moment, whether you like it or not. It's a divided party at the moment, and it's even fracturing further. So it's a sad situation. I wouldn't like to see the state in which my party is under, because now we are talking about my colleagues here, but the environment. I know some of them will consider me as their comrade, as their colleague, but the environment that is being created in this country, it's so complex that the leader, Geingob himself, is not here for unity. He's here for division and further division and division. So when I'll talk here, I'm talking about facts on the ground, not something that I'm smelling. That's why I'm saying that this thing is even spilling over at a national level, because SWAPO is far from uniting itself, because even people, when they call for reconciliation so that we can talk these things, you have got a man who doesn't sit and reflect and say that, am I going into a direction that is strengthening me or it's weakening me? So I'm discussing this under that background. You are discussing, and it's very, very, I'm in a difficult situation, because I'll end up talking about individuals, some of them that I don't know, even their history. I've never heard about them in the circles of politics, and I don't know the motives why they are being appointed, and the environment for individuals in the party. It now has been portrayed as it's an environment in SWAPO. So having said that, you know, our situation was very, very different from the current SWAPO, because in SWAPO you had robust debate in various structures of the party, even in that parliament. And this has been a culture of SWAPO. When SWAPO comrades meet, you see what you are seeing there in SWAPO, the SABEB and the vet boys, the SWAPO, the way they are behaving. It's the very same culture of SWAPO of how people debate. Because you debate robustly, you disagree, you fight, but at the end of the day, you know what you are fighting for. After you resolve, after you have chased out, then you agree. Now, people, that's why the support system is even collapsing, because you can see that those poor ministers, they are like kids in the classroom watching their president being marauded there, because they don't know what to say and not what to say, when to come in. They are just like in a church. A pastor is just preaching. You don't know when to say whether what you are saying is satanic or will be viewed as satanic or godish. You don't know. So this is the situation in SWAPO at the moment. People are so scared to the bone. The beauty thing is just to clap hands to praise the leader. That's why even you can ask what rules are being used to certain action, because people have to satisfy the leader to the bone. And now you don't know the background of these people, whether they are brought there for a succession, next succession they are being rewarded, or they are being lined up to go and be positioned for the next round.
But when you were appointed, were you lined up yourself for succession?
It's a good question, but I said that the environment was different. SWAPO internal environment was very, very difficult. It was very different. I contested. There was no way I was wheelchaired in any position. I participated in contestation, and open and fair contestation where there were no allegations of bribes. Where there were no allegations. Today we are dealing with the allegations of bribes, that Congress was bribed. I don't want to delve into that, because I'm a Democrat. I accepted the outcome. But the current leadership they are behaving like thieves. You can see they are uncertain, some of them, not all of them, and that's why the wolf behavior, the cabinet itself is a nomadic cabinet. It's a nomadic cabinet, very nomadic indeed, because how many ministers in the history of SWAPO, take how many ministers have lost their positions in this government, how many reshuffles have been done in this government. At parliament, the reshuffles are there. The Patena and Gura were kicked out of the middle of nowhere. The Pendukeni were kicked and so on. It came to the Ngarusebi, they were kicked. The Dr. Haufiku were kicked. You don't know, the list goes on and go on for various reasons. So it's a nomadic cabinet. Today, and that's why you don't get surprised when those people are scared to their bone. Today you are a minister, tomorrow you are in the street. Today you are a member of parliament, tomorrow when the mood of the leader is not in good, he is not in good mood, you are pushed out. So it's a nomadic cabinet. So it's a nomadic SWAPO that you are doing. It's a rule of the jungle. You don't know who is responsible. So now how do I comment about a nomadic cabinet? You don't know who, even those who are in positions. No. I'm sure if you can corner the Secretary General, she will confess to you that I don't know how that lady, where she's coming from. Or even if you can confront the VP or one of the top leaders. So you don't know who is consulting, who is pushing who, why is what, and the people are so scared of corruption. I can tell you the nomadic cabinet that we are having. And you know, it's sort of uncertainty that is engulfing this party. And it's not only engulfing this party, now it's spilling over to the whole country because assassinations will fall. You don't know even what rules are being used for security to step in, bodyguards to step in parliament. It's a rule of the jungle. Everybody's contesting to make sure that he is pleasing the leader. It doesn't matter whether the person is trampling on the rule, is exposing themselves. So in the end, where the rules are not clear, there are no guidelines, it's the rule of the jungle. It's wolf, it's dog eat dog. So really, for me to comment about the cabinet, I will talk about Kawana just few months was the Ministry of Fisheries. Today is the Home Affairs. You don't know what is going to be a minister the next day, which ministry. The whole thing is crisis management at all levels. You don't know who is doing what, who is consulting who, at all levels. It's crisis management. And I don't know the situation. So really, it's very, very difficult. My point is that really the nomadic cabinet, I don't know where it's going to end, who is going to be where, until when is going to be there. Yes, you see, I was removed, or I removed myself from cabinet. But we had consultations with President Pohamba. Consultations. We met at his farm near Otavi, and others were lobbying for me to go, and I was lobbying myself to go. And therefore, today, when we meet with Pohamba, there is no quarrels, because if I can say, President Pohamba, you fired me. President Pohamba, you say, Kazenambo, don't play with me, don't irritate me because you are demanding to go. Nobody actually knows what happened. But some of these colleagues in this nomadic cabinet, you are just called. Either the president has got no guts, he's a weak president, because he displays all the signs which President Gengob display. And you never know a human being until he starts acting. All the actions that he is displaying, the actions of bullying, the actions of uncertainty, it shows these are reflections, the actions of a weak person. Either a person with low self-esteem, or a person who has got no complex, or a person who has been abused in his life, either through the leadership experiences or so on, but definitely something's wrong, not only politically, because now it's a situation of abuse of power. People are so scared. There is no policy direction. It's a question of uncertainty. I don't know whether it's a corruption that is haunting these people. They are protecting their corruption. They are scared that something is going to happen to them when they're in the future. They are behaving like wolves, I'm telling you, fighting over a carcass. So really, a nomadic cabinet like this one, where you don't know, because I can give you an example. One example, close one. You see, in the 90s, Minister Shiryange and Minister Lady Thete, may their soul rest in peace, they were implicated in the ostrich thing in Nganjera there. But these people remained in cabinet. President Sam Nujoma told them to defend their case and so on. At one point, Deputy Minister Thete was suspended while the thing is being investigated. There are many permanent secretaries that were suspended in the 90s and the 2000s while their cases were investigated. And some of them, they were cleared their names later and so on. Here today, when somebody said too is implicated in the corruption, come and defend your case or you are gone. This is a signs of crisis management.
I hear you.
There is no orderliness, there is no procedure. So you don't know who is going when and with what, and you don't know why these people are appointed, what criteria are being used.
Yeah.
And many of them are angry amongst one another if they are not hypocrites. Even those who are in SWAPO,
The point is
if
clear.
you talk to SWAPO Youth League members today,
Yeah.
they are so disappointed. They will tell you behind what they don't know. We don't know where this lady is coming from. We don't know how she came there, how we were left. We're not consulted. So
point
it's
is
a
clear.
strong man, a weak man who is behaving like a strong man who is hiding. And the strong man, the weak person always is revengeful. It's very hateful. He wants people to be punished. He celebrates the downfall of others.
The point
And
is
this
clear.
is what we are seeing.
The point is clear. Final comment, Mr. Kauandenge. Is this man bitter? Is he angry because he's no longer part of cabinet? Or do you agree with his assessment of his own party?
No, I think in Kazenambo we have one of the few Namibians that speaks truth to power. I don't think he's bitter, because even when he was still a minister in the cabinet, he will disagree openly with his principles. And that tells you of a man that has principles.
Yes.
I will disagree with you, Mr. President. If you have to fire me, then do so. But I will disagree with you. So I don't think he's bitter at all. I think if we only have in this country men and women of his caliber,
Yeah.
this country could really go very far. Because unfortunately, our leaders are looking for people that can worship them, that can always clap hands and say, yes, you are right, Mr. President, while you know that the president is wrong.
Yes.
And some presidents don't take kindly to advice.
Yes.
And then they start finding other things. No, you want to take over, you don't like me, you don't want me. But if only they can listen to reason and go back and say, but why is Kazenambo saying this? And then rectify that mistake, this country could have been in better hands.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kauandenge. Thank you, Mr. Kazenambo, for your time. Really appreciate it. And to our viewers also for staying with us in this robust conversation that we are having on the agenda. The first episode of this show will bring you more of this kind of discourse Sunday next week again, same time, and subsequent Sundays. Thank you for watching.